Welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today?
Great.
Great.
All right, Morgan, you're looking just a little more pregnant. It's getting closer. You know, I like say to my daughter, and I say to Jennifer, all these years, I said, this pregnancy is going so fast for me. Yeah. Isn't that so rude? Isn't that so rude, Jess?
It's very rude.
I know, it's totally
Honestly,
rude.
it's flying by.
It is? Is it flying by for you?
Oh, that's so nice.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I have never heard Jennifer say that 5 times.
It is.
You
I'm
are the
so
most
grateful.
positive pregnant woman I think I've ever met. I like it. But that goes along with your awesome energy. So, Mr. Fricky, welcome to the room, man. Love having you here. Who knows this guy? Do anybody know this guy? A few people know this guy? You know, he's not famous for loans anymore, loans or lending, Stephanie. You know what he's famous for?
He's a stuntman.
A stud man or a stunt man?
Both.
Both. No, we're embarrassing. This guy's like a movie star now, man. Do you know that, April? Do you know John? I know. Every Western, it seems, in Utah is being filmed. This guy's on it, so it's kind of cool stuff to see. So
I already
anyway.
made him stand up and introduce himself.
Oh, they already embarrassed you? This is the second time?
Just a little bit.
All right, awesome. All right, great to be with you guys. So, all right, so, so excited to have Mary Lee here and you guys here, and you still put up with me, Jess. This is a good sign. I see. She's like, well, maybe no one will show up there. I feel sorry for him. And so you and Stephanie, you're taking the back road, making sure that they stay awake? All right. Good. You know, this is the kind of text, Michael, I get from Stephanie in mornings. I need to have a discussion with you. Like, who says I need to have a discussion? Thinking, what are we gonna discuss? Lauren, what are we gonna discuss? Like, I feel like I get called into the teacher's office and it's like, I need to, you know what, sit down. Is that what's gonna happen?
Legit.
Oh, exactly. So I'm like, man, I'm nervous. I'm like, should I return the text or not? So, all
You just say
right.
wrong number.
Pardon?
You just say wrong number.
Yes.
That's what you.
Well, I had one last night. I have no idea. I have to look up the phone number. You get these like, hey, I'm sorry I missed you at the office. When you get a chance, call me. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, I don't know this number. And I'm like, I'm gonna look up this number. And just, you know, because you can just look them up online. And of course, it's scam or spam or whatever they call it. But anyway, I'm always fascinated by the number of texts. Am I the only one getting those texts? Everybody else getting those texts?
Respond because then your phone is
Exactly.
out there. I had 47 calls in one day.
So if you ever do that to me,
Don't respond.
chat, just make sure you say it's chat. Kiefer, like last name would even be better, like, you know, so. All right, okay, everybody doing good today?
Yes.
All right, so I already warned Jennifer, she's speaking today, I just want you to know this. So, I've already warned, and I think if I pull off today, April, I am gonna be at hero status. Because as I woke up this morning, and we have this housekeeper, and she's doing all her stuff, and she's rearranging all of the medicine that I take, okay, Shauna? And normally in this one location does anybody know what Losartan is? All the young people have no idea. Does anybody know?
I do.
Joanna, do you know what Losartan is?
Yes.
What is it? What is it?
My husband takes
What is
for
it?
blood pressure.
Yeah, it's a blood pressure. You guys cause me tons of stress, so I gotta take blood pressure medicine, right? So I take Losartan, and it's usually in the same spot. I put it there at the same time, working every day. And this person put Ambien in my normal location. So Michael, I always say this, Ruby, if I look off, guess what? I'm off. So I took an Ambien that I take because next week we're going on a little trip to Iceland, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, I gotta have my Ambien from international travel. So I'm loaded up with 200 milligrams of caffeine and an Ambien, Aubrey. So some are like, well, I'm not, you know, so this is the truth, this is like really happening. So I may not remember anything about today. But John, you're in the right spot. I know you are. I'll remember you. With how handsome he is, right? Pardon?
You gonna be snacking all day too?
I hope not. I think that's the other thing. Like I think that's more of the edible, isn't it? That you're gonna be snacking all day. I don't know.
My friend takes Ambien and said she has to be careful because she'll eat things that she doesn't
Oh,
remember.
well, I hope that's the worst thing that happens because I was, Gabe, I was on a plane. And I told all the LOs this today and the staff, I said, well, I was on a plane a few years ago with Jennifer flying over somewhere to Europe, and I'm there and I'm standing in line, it's pitch black, it's the middle of the night, I'm standing at the bathroom door, waiting my turn, and I turn around and there's this lady who has pulled down her pants, she is squatting, about to go to the bathroom, and I tap her, and she's on my left side, I go tap, 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 and she looks up at me totally and like squatting, and I'm all, hey! Of course my voice carries, even in a plane, John, so it's good, so she heard it, and she's startled, and she goes, "You're not in the bathroom!" And she looked up at me and she pulls up her pants and she storms around the corner and then she sits in her seat, which was the good news, only 2 in front of me, so I got to see her even after. I go, that was her. She took off her clothes. So, no clothes, Chandler, will be taken off. If they do, tackle me, okay? But there, anyway. So whatever I have to say, it better be good. So there's no filter today. All right, which sometimes can be scary if you're my children. So, all right, with that being said, why I'm saying to Jennifer she gets to speak is I want to talk about something. So, 30 years ago, we sat in a meeting, Jennifer and I, and as we sat in this little meeting, we were a young married couple, and we sat in this little meeting, and some of you have heard this, but just remember, learning is remembering. I would ask you, how are you using this stuff? How are you taking in this stuff? And I want to talk to you about the fact of love supplies. And you say, some people have read the book, The 5 Love, well, who's read it? Lizzie, when you find your one, you need to make sure you read The 5 Love Languages. And this is it's a good book to read because we have a language. And we have a language of how we want to be loved. And yet what I've realized that oftentimes people will talk about this just from a place of intimacy, which of course is a very important part to a relationship that you have. But the reality is that as Jennifer and I were sitting there, we were literally grading ourselves, and some of you in this room, you know who you are, you've sat in that same room with this counselor, because it was a counselor, and we went through these in our early 20s. Well, here I am still now married 31 years, and I know every one of these by heart. And I often do a checks and balances as to which and how I'm doing these. Here's my opinion to you. I want to go through these with you just really quick because I believe, in my opinion, that they apply so deeply, whether you're a team leader or whether you're building a team, whether you're talking to your sphere, whether you have a current client, because at the end of the day, we'll cloak things like say, I really care about you, Ruby, or I really appreciate you, John, or I really think the world of you, Michael. And not that those aren't nice things to say about people, but in the end of this, I think this world we live in, it's not money that makes it work. It's how we love that makes it work. And if you can love people without condition, if you can love people and separate activity or behavior to the way you feel and how you care for someone, all of a sudden what you'll find is a deeper depth and a deeper connection to the people that you do love. And so look, one of the things I'm certain of is that it is not as important that people hear your words, but I can promise you that they will feel your words. And so it is as important as whether I've joked for years about, you know, our little dogs or little Cooper. I was talking to him recently, Gabe, and I said, this was this morning, he came and put his nose on my chest, and I said, has anyone talked to you about the size of your nose, Cooper? And I mean, aren't you a little embarrassed? He's a big golden retriever, and he has a big nose, and I always go, Cooper, are you embarrassed by the size of your nose? I said, it's okay, you're gonna be okay today, no one's gonna make fun of you except me. You know, and so I'm having these conversations with I'm weird, aren't I? It's like Ashley says, Morgan, if anybody knew how weird you are, I don't think you'd lead anybody. So I'm talking to him, having some conversation with Cooper, and telling him how much I love him, and I'm like, okay, well, I love you, Cooper, despite your big nose. You know, it's all good. You're gonna make it through the day, don't let it get you down. And my point is that your words, right, because I say it so nice, of course he doesn't know what I'm saying, but my favorite thing about Cooper is if you just raise your voice, he's such a big baby, he just, you know, walks and keeps his head down and comes right over to you because he's just a big scaredy cat. And my point is that every single one of us, I don't care whether it's Cooper or your other animals or other people in your life, man, they feel your words. And if they feel your words, then the question I would ask you is this: how do you want people to feel? How do you want people to feel when they're around you? Some people will be very defiant in this world and go, I don't care. Gotta be me. Okay, that's great. That's one way you can live your life. But what if you got really clear on what you wanted people's experiences to be? And I know some of you have heard this little part, but one of my favorite is, I've never said it this way. One of my favorite things to do is to walk through a store that John Syed will often go into, like a Whole Foods or something like that, or the Harmon's downtown that he goes into, and he's like, hey Bob, hey Sally, hey Billy, hey Bud, how's that? He knows everybody. In fact, there's a number of agents that have come into this company and got their license just because he was friendly to them over the years. And one day when I saw myself at a similar Whole Foods, and it was a time when John wasn't with me, the one up here on Highland Drive, it was just a decision that I made right at that moment, Morgan. I said, I'm not okay with people not feeling loved when I'm in their presence. You know, most people are busy, they're checking out the line, they got so much to do, they're trying to be highly efficient, but here's what I tell you, you will never be efficient with people. You can be efficient with process, paperwork, technology, but you're never gonna win the game of this life at the highest levels trying to be efficient with people. There is no efficiency with people, and when people get really efficient with people, they're not very close, there's very little depth, there's probably a lot of resentment, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of disappointment, and we'll say things, we'll cloak it with, well, I was just in a hurry, I just needed to get it done. And I'm just as guilty of that. I'm one of the most impatient people on earth, Chris. But throughout my life, I've tried to figure out, like, what do people want to feel? What do they want to, what do I want them to experience in my presence? And that's become, not to where, I think there was a day where I kind of lost myself with wanting to focus on what everyone else thought I should or shouldn't do and who I should or shouldn't be. And some of you have had that conversation over the years. I'm not talking about being lost. I'm talking about being really clear on who do you want to be and what is the experience you want others to have in your presence. And I think that these love supplies of how we work through business and we work through our personal life, I think they really matter. I think they have a huge impact in relationship to our success and the things that we're trying to do on a daily basis. So just, again, what do you want people to feel? Now, over the years, I think I said this to Justin Crane, I think it was this week, but if it wasn't, maybe it was Aubrey or someone in a coaching session. I said, I think it was Aubrey actually, I said, I have a new definition of empathy, right? If you looked up a definition of empathy, it's gonna be in so many words. You know, if Joanna looks up, it'll say, hey, it means try to feel, some will sometimes say maybe even feel the experiences of, but feel what others are going through, others are experiencing, others are going through tragedy, struggle. What are they feeling? And if we're empathetic, some people are known as an empath. I can look at a handful of you here, I consider you an empath. I think like Jennifer's an empath, right? My wife. I think that I've known Mary Lee for 20 years. So the more I've gotten to know her, she's an empath. She feels people's feelings, which is a pretty good path to have or know how to do that when you do a lot of loans. And it's not a competition, just some people are more, either they've worked on it, they want to feel it. They want to feel what others are feeling. And that can be sometimes good, sometimes maybe really overwhelming. But it can be also a great tool if it's used with great persuasion and love and care, because you want to feel what others are feeling. But I think there's a second step that I think Aubrey and I were talking about a few days ago, maybe it was even yesterday. It said there's a deeper level, in my opinion. You're in a business where you can feel what others are feeling at that moment, but man, the higher step beyond that is, can I feel what they're going to feel if, and the if is these things, if I say this, if I do this, if or if this happens to them. And so what, are you astute, aware, conscious enough that if something you did, or something even from the outside, or something to your client, or something to your spouse, or something to the one you love, or your closest friend, if you did blank, how would they feel? Now you may say, well, I don't care how they feel. Well, that goes back to the first question. What do you want people to experience in your presence? And when you get really clear on what you want others to experience by your presence, or your actions, or your words, or your voice, or the intensity or lack of, or your sincerity or your lack of it, or your anger or your bitterness or your directness or your tactfulness or tactlessness, you start to realize, wait a second here, am I awake? Am I really paying attention in the sales? Just take sales, the sales process, that if I do this, this is how they will feel. Like some people, there's a situation this week, where two agents got into it. And I thought to myself, agents in this company. I thought to myself, would I do that? Would I do that? And the answer is no. Now, have I done things like that? Got into a little spat, a little argument? Of course I have. In fact, way back in the day, Jennifer will remember this, I remember I got in a little spat, I was a little bothered by a commission check that was a large check. Some of you can appreciate this. I needed the money, and the bank said, we need to, I started going to deposit, and we need to do what, Michael?
Put a hold on.
Put a hold on that. And I'm like, why don't you know I've already spent the money on this commission? This is like, 25 years ago. Spending all the money. Chad, you don't do that. You're smarter than me 25 years ago. Spend all the money before you get it. Anybody ever done that before? All right, only Jessica. Wow. You and me are a special group of people. Okay, and so I had spent the money and they wanted to put a hold on it. And I went, blah! And I went a little berserk for a minute, and I remember that day, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not who I want to be. And that is not what I want them to experience and feel. So of course, I'm like, well, I better send flowers and apologize. And after I did that, and she was just this cute little teller at the Zions Bank that was I think it used to be in Dan's supermarket up there, the street. And every time I'd see her, we were BFFs, so after that, because, I sent flowers and apologized, all right? I'm just telling you, like, have you decided what people are going to experience when they're in your presence? So you can take that personal, or you can take it in business. But I think if you're awake at the wheel and you're conscious of what's going on, you're observing what's going on, you start to realize, wait a second here. Well, what do I want to experience? Now here's one of the best statements one of my former CFOs made. This is what she said. I said to her, it said former, it's not Gretchen. I said to her though, why are you always so kind? And you know what she said? Does anybody know what she said? Do you remember what she said, John?
You said this, but I don't remember.
Justin, she said, I'm not kind because I like to be kind. In fact, I want to rip their face off. She's like, whoa, okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, she's from Ukraine, by the way. If you might, some of you remember, she was from Ukraine. I'm like, okay, this matches up. It's like, and she was intense. And she goes, I'm not nice because I want to be nice. I mean, I'd kill them basically. But she goes, it's just more profitable. And I dawned on me, I went, say that again? She goes, it's just more profitable to be nice, and I like to have profit. So I just want you to think about something. If you're just talking pure business, it's like, well, oftentimes people say, if you could treat your family like you treat your business, how much better would your family be? And part of it is because we often always are at our best when we're in business. But again, I think that's a decision that you sit back and go, okay, again, if you're conscious of it, you say, what is the experience I want people to have? What is it I want them to feel from me? What do I want them to experience from me? What is it that I want them to walk away with? How do I want them to feel? Love and brightness and inspiration, or completely down, discouraged, and this guy or gal just kind of gave their attitude? Or do you want them to feel like, look, the two greatest human needs on earth for each one of us is, will I be loved and do I make a difference? And you show up at the checkout line and act like they're not even like a human being of existence on this earth. You're on your phone, you're ignoring them, you don't say hi, and you say, well, I don't do that. Okay, well, is there anywhere else it shows up? Here's the sad part. If you're doing that to the person at the checkout line, here's a great question right now. Where else is it showing up in my life that I ignore people who need to hear from me, feel my love, feel my experience? Because I tell you one thing, if you're ignoring the person who's at the checkout line, there's other areas you're ignoring too. And they will probably be more meaningful and important than just those points. So again, you say, well, gosh, again, we're talking about care, concern, empathy, love supplies, love languages. How does this have to do with business? It has everything to do with business, because the higher you're able to communicate at a higher level the more business you're going to do. It is not an accident when, someone like a Jennifer says to an Austin Kales goes, I love to hear from you. You are so funny at the front of the room. Well, why is that? Because what is also very evident is that the people who make and earn the most money are always the best communicators. That's the first time you've seen Mara Lee at the front of the room. I mean, Morgan, in all seriousness, did she seem really nervous? No, because she's done it for 38 years, sitting in front of agents, knowing that you're all judging her, giving you your opinion about her, look at how her hair is done, look at how tan and Italian she is, how fancy her shoes are, well, is she really the thing that she says she is? She's been there. So the only other antidote to that, because I know her so well, is that I'm just going to love you. I'm just going to be here for you. I'm a resource for you. And then all of a sudden you'll feel comfortable and say, oh, hey, yeah. It's the same thing that Bob's doing, same thing that John's done over these years, and all the other great LOs. Those who are the best at what they do, that's what they do. I would echo that of a Justin. I would echo that of a Jessica. I would echo that when I look at Joanna and I look at all the difficult transactions she's had. I look at so many of you, and I can just tell you that the rise of your career is so in alignment with the way in which you communicate. But there's two forms of communication, the one with yourself and the ones with others. So you gotta be awake. These same supplies of love that I'm gonna list up here, and I want you to rate yourself on. And by the way, remember I told you 30 years ago, give or take, I was doing this. So Morgan, for me, I rate myself. I have them in my phone, and when I think something's kind of off between Jennifer and me, or maybe something's off with John and me, which is a lot, I gotta go back and, just kidding. So I just want to make sure you're awake, Michael. I'm just kidding. But with John, I'm serious, but my closest friends and those that I love the most and I spend the most time with, even my own children like Kenzie and others, I'm looking at going, am I offering these to these people? These supplies, right? The two greatest needs of humanity. Am I loved? Do I make a difference? You may say, oh, not me. Oh, are you the alien that we didn't know about? I mean, are you Sasquatch, just shaven? Some of you look a little hairy, so maybe you are a Sasquatch, I don't know. But my point is that you guys, that's your own needs. So you have a stewardship. That's what I think that this organization is the gold standard of how we treat people. Is there was a day that I would hang up on people. I mean that. They'd be like, no, I don't want to sell. Click, click. And then I turned to Joanna and went, how would I feel if I got hung up on? Well, if I didn't regulate myself like I can today, I would be pretty disappointed. Have you ever considered it's like your right to honk at everybody and you lose your cool and you're like, the moment you were in downtown New York City, you honk the horn. I mean, of course, you've never been looking at your phone and the light turned. How fast are you to honk? And when you honk, have you considered, well, how does the other person feel? And you can still say, I don't care. They screwed up. They did blank. Whatever it is that you think is kind of your honk in life. Okay. But again, I go back to, what do you want people to experience from you? What do you want people to feel when you're there? And that's up to you. That I can't decide. Some of you won't care. That's not a criticism, it's just a fact. Some of you won't really I don't care. I'm gonna do this, whatever, I don't care what people say. And that's okay at times. Maybe it is that moment of defiance to take your stand. And you gotta be okay with what everybody feels. But if you're awake, you're having that conversation with yourself versus, I don't care, screw them. They don't like it, tough. They should have gone when the light turned green. I don't care. Well, you may say, well, I don't do it that way, but you can do it softer. It's my life. I gotta do this for me. And I gotta take care of me now. We say all sorts of things so that we get rid of the stewardship that we have for the care and the concern for others. So before I write these up here, I want to share one other thing. Sometimes we get in this idea that we are a lone wolf, or we're alone. When we think about literally a cell, a little cell in your body. And you're right. Aubrey is a cell. Joanna is a cell in the midst of all of the other cells, if you would say, right? So Aubrey represents, figuratively or symbolically, this cell amongst all these other cells that are all around. And when a cell gets broken or damaged or antioxidants or even gets, cancerous, this one cell has the capacity to multiply and damage what? Other cells, right? So when we talk about that person's a cancer, not they have cancer, they're a cancer, what we're really saying is, man, look at the damage that they're creating amongst all the other cells. But in the same sentence, if you can hold your shape, if you can hold your desires, who you are, your character, your presence, your mindset, if you can hold that and you can operate amongst all the other cells, like all the cells, if you each were symbolically another cell in this room, then the thing that will happen is growth, healing, success. And some people say, no, it's me. And yet I have never seen anybody achieve anything without other people. Even if it's just other people buying what you're selling, you have to have other people. So instead of being it's only me and it's all about me, here's the good thing. That is true. But what is also true is it is all about others. And it is all about caring for others, protecting others, elevating others. And it's true too. And so the thing that I have concluded, at least in my own life, is that you having a combination of a personal responsibility. I think Jim Rohn figured this out. In fact, John asked me, well, what does he need from me last week? And I said, and then he said, are you going to give me the Jim Rohn answer? And I said, well, so many words, yeah. Which is what, Aubrey? You take
care of you for me, I'll take care of you.
Listen to that closely. You, Brenda Lee, take care of you for me. So you're not the cancer amongst all the other cells. And guess what I promise to do for you, Brenda Lee? I'll take care of me for you. Well, let me tell you something. Marriages, partnerships, relationships, intimacy, when that's happening, man, life can be something pretty special. And so when you're wondering, when Jennifer and I don't know how many years ago we were going, I guess 8, 9 years ago, where we had some of our biggest struggles. I mean, Lizzie, it's usually almost a struggle every day for Jennifer to live with me, but it was a specific struggles during those 8 years, Joanna. And we were struggling and, overindulgence, if you would say, of counselors and figuring life out and all these other things we were trying to do. And in the end, I remember distinctly, she asked me, John, she said, what can I do for you? And not that I was trying to be trite and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I said, not as eloquently at that moment, Ruby, as a Jim Rohn, I said, nothing. I said, what I realize is that if I work on me and I take care of me, a lot of people don't like what we say to each other, then I'm going to decide my preferences, and so will you. And in that journey of taking care of me and her taking care of her, we now have a preference. I prefer my life with Jennifer. You say, well, wait, hold on a second here. Weren't you married somewhere downtown where it's forever, ever, 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 ever? Well, maybe, where people will talk about that. But I just have a preference because I don't like to feel trapped. And so I just prefer my life next to this beautiful soul. I think she prefers me, Joe. I'm not sure. She's very silent right now. She's just looking at me, leaving me hanging, Shauna. But seriously, and that's been one of the great lessons of my life, is that if you want to improve anything around you, just remember, you guys have heard this, but if I'm pointing at Gabe, I can say, Gabe, you. But just don't forget, there's 3 fingers pointing back at who? You, when I'm pointing one finger at someone else. Somehow we forget that we will never, ever change essentially anybody. We can love them, but we'll rarely change them. And it doesn't mean you have to be with everybody forever, because maybe you would prefer something different, and that's okay. But in fairness, if you haven't figured out, I am a very big handful, Bob. And so to find someone who prefers to be with me, Justin, quite a catch. Okay? All right, so with that, we're gonna list these things, and I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. A few of you have done this, right? Haven't we? And those of you who have done it, just ask yourself this: when was the last time you did it? Because you should be doing it often. And by the way, anyone who operates at 80% or better in any intimate relationship, what I can promise you is it is an amazing relationship. I would also echo that. Like someone like a John Syatt back there, who you may say, why do I give him such a hard time? I mean, someone has to, Michael. But my point is because he is my very best friend. And some of you in here are I would consider, even though we don't get lots of time together, I would consider you some of my very best friends. And when you start looking at friendships, your intimate partner, or this business, just ask yourself again, how are you moving through this space? So a scale 1 out of 10. All right, number 1. So we'll just label these as love supplies. Before I say this, I just hope that no one ever thinks that I'm not preaching to any of you. The thing I've appreciated about the mentors and the coaches of my life, often I've said this to them, said to one recently, do you know what I love? I love watching you go through all of this crap, all of these moments of heartache, all of these things that have been so tough, death, physical challenges, people you love around you departing too early, all of these challenges, and to watch you use the same skills, abilities, teachings, principles that you teach to me. I get to watch you in living color, do the same. That has been very powerful for me personally. I love seeing people who have taught me go through difficult moments and to see how they regulate and come back to an extraordinary life in moments of very challenging, troubling difficulty. So my observation is I will have problems just like all of you. The question is how will each one of us maneuver, respond, regulate through them is each one of our individual responsibilities, okay? So please don't ever take somehow like, me, Jennifer, we got it figured out. Oh, we're the furthest from, I think sometimes, here's this, more you know, the less you don't know, which means there's even more places to go with this. Okay, first one, these are not in any particular order, but here's the first one. Verbally. How do you verbally express your love to someone? Do you verbally tell a client, thank you? You know who's so good at that? Chris Armstrong. I'll randomly get a text even on the weekend. I appreciate you. I am grateful for you. Whoa! Doesn't that endear me to him as a friend? Of course, he verbally expresses love to me as a coach for him. And I'm always appreciative of that. And that's a really big deal for people, especially when verbal, like think about this, I'm highly about words, speaking, talking, yelling, screaming, sternly, softly, gently, everything about my life is about how I speak. So me hearing things verbally is a big deal, okay? Number 2, again, actually let's do 2 things. Rate yourself in your intimate relationship, but do another thing for me. Rate yourself in business, how you work with a client. Pick clients, like am I showing them care? You can label however you want, but care, concern, appreciation, but for me, do they feel that I love them? Do I care? Matt Ishbia, owner of UWM, he said, do they know you care? Basically, do they know you love them? Okay? All right, physically. Two scores, 1 out of 10. I see Ruby, I'm just talking business right now. Ruby, I see her yesterday. She goes, I haven't seen you forever. Can I give you a hug? Yes, I always love a hug from Ruby. It's awesome. So physically, I know she loves me. She gives me a hug. How many high fives do you give? How many attaboys do you give? How many putting your arm around someone and tell them they've made a good decision? And is it possible that even physically you put your arm around them or give them a big hug and you verbally tell them how great they are? Whoa, there, now you're talking some real love supply. Third, emotionally. Scale of 1 out of 10. Last night, you know one of the things I noted, John, that I really appreciated yesterday? John, myself, Lindsay Wardle, we all three went to dinner last night, celebrating our birthdays are all real close to one another. And I heard, and we were up at Silver Fork, Lodge or whatever it is up there at Big Cottonwood, and we're sitting there and I'm hearing John laugh. So what is it emotionally? Are you light? Are you bright? Are you laughing? And he doesn't know this, but just to hear him laugh, Joanna, was so fun for me as one of my best friends. We're cracking all the inappropriate jokes and stupid things you shouldn't say, and the server's name had Bianca on it, and it was a guy, and then finally I said, hey, thank you, Bianca. John leans over to me and says, I'm pretty sure his name. I go, well, it could be today, it could be Bianca. I mean, it's possible. And they goes, I know, but he introduced himself as Johnny. And I'm all, so he comes back, of course, and we're like, is it Johnny or Bianca? And he, of course, he's kidding, but he goes, does it matter? And I'm like, yeah, I like this guy. And he goes, it's Johnny. He goes, but should you be offended if it is? We were having fun with it. I'm like, no, you can call yourself whatever you want, right? But my point is we're having fun. So are you laughing together, right? I mean, John, truly just as a friend, I'm talking business, can you get choked up together? Gosh, and I just, even yesterday, was talking to Mary Lee about, I'm so excited where we're all going with lending. I can't talk about it without getting a little choked up. So can you cry together? Right, the number of times where I will say to even Mary Lee, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the chills. Like, that's emotional love. Not again, these aren't I'm not talking, they're intimate, but it's not your intimate partner, but it's intimate. And all of a sudden, people feel cared for, they feel loved. So on a scale of 1 to 10, verbally, how well are you doing in business? Verbally letting people know, great job. I wasn't trying to even do this, it's just my habit, but Justin Crane and Isaac have put a deal together, and even yesterday, I just was on a conference call. I said, guys, great job on putting a really difficult deal together. Seller financing, they're never easy. Nice work. I want them to know. I want to give love. And so the thing is, where are you showing up verbally for people? Where are you showing up physically? Where are you showing up emotionally? Can you laugh, cry? Can you be emotional? Vulnerable would be another way to have that. And if you can do this in your intimate relationship, your lover, your partner, your wife, your spouse, your husband, wow. Life can be really, really, it can be beautiful. Were you going to ask a question? No. Were you asking a question?
Yeah, yes. Oh, no.
No?
Was I
Okay.
stretching?
Okay, it's all right. There's no stretching. When actually I see everything. The problem is, my ADD takes over at all time levels. All right, okay. There's 6 of these, by the way. There's the book called The 5 Love Languages. We were gonna put up 6. Here's the other one. Broadcasting. Now, broadcasting, what is that? Could be things like gifts. So what do? Between the loan she has at her old company, the loans that she's doing in this company, her first month here, she's closing on 7, 8, 9 loans, Mary Lee is. We talked about these selenite rocks and all the dynamics of that and what they mean. And next morning, I have a bag on my desk of selenite rocks. I'm thinking, you bought me selenite rocks? Well, yeah, because I want to make sure that there's so many things that are negative around you. These are known to protect people. Whoa!
Those are awesome.
There you go. So less than 12 hours later, I get a gift. Right? Highlight of my day, because of Jared Schneider, Jessica's husband, he turned me on to, which you can't ever find it, Mammoth ice cream. Best thing that happens, I get a phone call. Guess what? What? They have 10 Mammoth ice creams. Buy them. It'll be $100. $100 of ice cream. Let's go. And every night, You know,
It's
delicious.
every night, Chad. Mammoth ice cream, baby. 5 ingredients, no sugar, unbelievable. Like it will make the best and worst days better. Just so you know. Okay? But my point is a gift. And now now think about this. How about this? You're in front of people, Justin, with your wife, and you say something like, my wife, you broadcast, my wife is so amazing. You verbally say it, you have your arm around her, and maybe even you talk about how amazing she is, and you get just a little choked up. You want to talk about a good night that's got to happen? It's got to happen. Because that's what happens. All of a sudden now, you got all 4 love supplies even out of 6. It's going to be a good night. That's how it works. And the thing is you're like, I just can't figure out. By the way, there's no such thing, Gabe. How old are you again? 19, 20? 19? There's no such thing. When people say, we just can't communicate, let me tell you something. You're communicating perfectly. And it's like this. Don't touch me. I don't want you in this room. Get away from me. I don't like you. And then people go, we just can't communicate. Oh, you are perfectly communicating. Just remember that. Remember, there is no misunderstanding what you're communicating. Basically, do not touch me. But how you can get back into, okay, you can touch me, especially is maybe some of these things might just be missing. So if you're like a 4 here, a 1 here, a 3 here, and a 6 here, and you're like, I understand what's wrong with them. Have you considered that you're the problem? Because if you're the problem, in most cases, you can fix it, which I think you can. And I don't care whether it's a client, a dear friend, your spouse, partner, lover, it's all the same. It's all the same skill sets. Okay? Number 5. Talk about this is a huge one. Oops. For business. Responsibility. Communicating your responsibility. Responsible for the contracts. That shows you care, shows you love them. Responsible for the tough conversations, maybe with another agent to protect your client. How responsible are you? Hey, I'm going to be late. Calling, letting them know. Like, just be responsible. Like, hold a level of maturity in your relationships. Be the person, in so many words, that you can count on. And if you can be counted upon, that is a supply of love. If you have these words like, I can't count on them, then maybe there does need to be a conversation of, hey, I need to be able to count on you. And I feel, here's the easiest way to quit arguments. What's your husband's name, Morgan? Brandon? Brandon. Start off with, Brandon, you. You are not responsible. Instant fight. Perfect. So if you want to fight. I mean, you can't pull the pregnant card. Right? I'm like, sorry, you're not doing you. But I would encourage anyone who wants to approach someone to do what, Aubrey? We've talked about this before. To start off with what? I. And how you start, I feel. I feel this way when this is happening. When I feel this way when your garbages aren't taken out. I feel this way when you don't call me and tell me you're going to be late. I feel. Describe how you feel. I. And I promise you, Chad, you won't create World War III at home. Start with I. But the easiest way to create a fight, just start off with you. Because that is an attack. But you can start off with I. All right. Broadcast, responsibility, and the last one, again, you're rating yourself. We'll wrap up here. Commitment. Specifically this. Commitment to, if you want to write it out, commitment to the relationship. Commitment to the relationship. How committed are you? How committed are you to your client? How committed are you to helping, serving, giving, offering your assistance, your expertise, your knowledge? How committed are you? Well, here's the deal. That commitment, I can just promise you, now I'm going to be a little bit joking here, I'm going to say this is a joke, but I always appreciate in the book Driven, which is, at the time, it was the autobiography, because he was still alive, of Larry H. Miller. And in the book, Driven, which is a fantastic book if you haven't read it, if you've read it, read it again. I mean, you sit there and go, my goodness, this guy was just a maniac, a machine. Do you know that Larry H. Miller today, his wife is the single largest landowner in the state of Utah? Does everybody know that? Does everybody know that they bought Destination Homes? And they have one of the largest did you know that they bought all the land in Daybreak from Rio Tinto? Did you know that they basically own all of the land on the west side of Utah Lake? Like it's out towards Eureka and all these places, like it's amazing. But in that book, they don't talk about that, but in that book, Gail has this little section at the end of the book. And she says these words, you know, Larry and I for sure would have been divorced. It's just that we didn't want to be divorced at the same time. And I have always thought that is an incredible statement. Now, I hate losing. But 8-9 years ago, Jennifer, believe it or not, she beat me, Steph. She said she wanted to be divorced 4 times. And I only said it 3 times, Joanna. So I just want you to know I was willing to lose out on this. And my point is that the good news is for those who seem to stay together in any relationship, friendship, love, spouses, you name it, the key factor is to hopefully that neither of you lose your full commitment at the same time. And that's the sad part when that happens. Because all of a sudden, what you watch, what maybe could be beautiful if a lot of work was put in, you find the fact that there's a lack of commitment. But here's the challenge. Any type of relationship, I always look at it, is like, okay, if enough time goes by, could we improve verbally, physically, emotionally? Could we improve the way we broadcast? As I elevate as an agent and get better, could I be more responsible? Could I be more committed to my business and the clients I serve? And the answer is yes, and even those that you love, even those that you care for. But the problem is that when this commitment part gets lost, I can tell you, in my darkest moments, with those that I love, and most importantly, Jennifer, were we verbally there? Absolutely not. We're probably operating at a negative 100. Were we physically there? No, don't touch me, right? Emotionally, I'm not crying in front of you right now. Broadcasting? No, I'm gonna make sure I send the right message. I will give you and send nothing to you. Oh, and responsible? I might even act a little irresponsible.
Cook your own dinner.
But you know what? The one thing I never lost is my commitment to the growth of the relationship. I'll close with this. What kept my commitment? Well, so many around me and so many others around us said, what are you doing? Why are you guys together? And I had some very close people, and it wasn't that they were trying to be mean or hurtful, but many of them said, gosh, in so many words, isn't it time for you guys to move on? And there was one thing I just want you to know that can break me very quickly emotionally, is that I could always feel her love. No matter how dark it got, some glimmer, I could feel her love. I could feel it. And so it was worth it to become a greater version of yourself. So look, sometimes people will hang on to very small things, but it was her love that saved us. And there's lots of religious things people talk about, that love cures all, love is all, right? Love encompasses all. You can read it from poems to poets to people you would consider religious leaders, religious people, spiritual people, New Age people, from Buddha to Gandhi to Muhammad to Jesus. It's all there. It seems to be one common thread that all people seem to agree upon, and it's love. And I think that if you can figure that out in your life, then you will find that this business that we're in, that it gets crazy, but you will find that it is the one thing that will solve all of your challenges. But you gotta be awake, and you gotta be conscious, you gotta be awake at the wheel, and you gotta say, okay, so here's the deal. If you're operating at 70% on all of this, whether it's the business side of it or your intimate side of it, I can just tell you that you probably have a pretty good life. But if you could operate at 80-90% in each one of these categories, you will have not only a, let's just say, a lover, but you will have a soulmate. And that is what happens. And so, one more thing. 9 years ago, sometime this year, 9 years ago, I sat, maybe you've heard me mention a gentleman by the name of Paige Palmer. He's been a coach for specifically myself and John Syatt for a lot of years. And I remember sitting there, he's retired, he's now a coach for me and John. But I remember the first time I met him, I described what I wanted. And what I described in my relationship with Jennifer is I wanted a soul-to-soul communion with her. Is it always like that? No, of course it's not. But there's a lot of it. And in the process of that, he said these words as I described what that looked like. And it's the same for business. It is your ability to connect with people. And the statement applies whether it's an intimate relationship or business relationships. And he said these words, oh, you want to be part of the 1%. And I responded back with, no, Paige, I don't want to be part of the 1%. I want to be part of the 1% of the 1%. And he said, why? Because I know I can. It wasn't about competing with other relationships and ones that I am inspired by, but where I see depth and love and care and intimacy at incredibly high levels. It was the fact that I just had this feeling that I knew I could. I just knew it. And so furthering that conversation, several weeks, maybe even months later, we're sitting in this meeting. Jennifer's there, I'm there, Paige is there. Some of you have even worked in this room with Sharon Noble. She's just brilliant and amazing, which is his partner. She's a PhD. She's amazing. She's incredible. Most talented human beings in this space and world. And we're sitting there, and I describe what I want for the first time to all of them. I want this soul-to-soul communion. And then Paige says to me, so describe that. What do you want? And I said, Chad, I want her soul. And then there was this massively uncomfortable moment. Everyone's just dead silent. And it seemed like forever.
Sounds a little ominous.
I know, it sounds like a little like, what are we doing? Seances? And I said, her soul. And he said, I still never remember right where he said, he goes, so intense. And he goes, I may have told a few of this, and he goes, well, Jennifer, that doesn't seem like too much to ask. And of course, we all erupted with laughter. I'm like, but yeah, I want her soul. And I don't know if I know what that really means, but I think I know if I was to describe it, I would say it means I want all of this. Because what I want, it's what I want to feel. And sometimes we forget what we want to feel. So if you want to chart your life, you want to chart your business, you want to chart your economics and your clients and the one you love, then get serious about how you supply love to other people. Because it means everything. How you lead in this business is how you care, look out for, and love other people. And it seems like those who do the best at that make the most money. There is something that seems to go hand in hand with their love, their care, and their concern. And then you bring their talent to the table. That combination of talent and that emotional level of connection, sky's the limit. Okay, any thoughts, comments? Guys, thanks for, I made it, even on Ambien. Woo! Okay, guys, thank you. If you have any thoughts, and happy to offer and share anything. By no means, Jennifer and I, or myself, we all go through our journey. But don't give up, don't give in. Work your tail off, all the way to the end. Swing for the fences. See what's possible. Okay?
Very cool.
Love you guys. Okay. All right, there we go.
Thanks, George.
Okay, bye. Yep.